Morning, all, and I've decided to do something different today. So I've discussed Yaroslav Askarov before, but I wanted to compare him to the rest of the goalies in this draft class. Odds are there's going to be at least one goaltender that's towards the bottom of this board that we look back on someday and say, hey, how did that guy fall? How did that guy fall to the level he did? That's really weird he got taken so late. Goaltenders are really, really tough to scout and draft and figure out exactly who's going to be that big star goalie of the future. So, and of course, goalie of the future being one of those things that I think is kind of a jinx. Because there's been so many. Goalie of the future, this is the guy, and then it just doesn't work out. So, I'll start with Askarov. Askarov is going to be a first-round draft pick. I'm wearing the Blackhawks because odds are they take Askarov. But it's possible they take him, and maybe in one of the later rounds they take another goaltender. So he's 6'3", 176 pounds. His strengths are positioning and low shots. Now this is where people come up and say, hey, he didn't do very well at the World Junior Championships. True. But he played in the VHL, St. Petersburg, 18 games, 2.45 goals against, 920 save percentage. That is a league a level below the KHL. He was the youngest goaltender to play more than 9 games at that level. And the 920 save percentage is why people are still raving about him. No, yes, St. Petersburg is an excellent team. And it is concerning that when he was at tournaments against really elite players of his level, he struggled. So that is a concern, and his overall season doesn't look great as a result. But scouts are thinking that's probably just a blip. Probably not a big deal. The kid's 6'3", 176 pounds. Notice he's the second tallest goaltender I have on the board. Height means a lot these days in the National Hockey League when it comes to scouting goaltenders. He moves like Saros, is what they've been saying about him, but he's bigger. UC Saros is a small goaltender by NHL standards, and as a result, there are still people who don't know if he's going to be a starter. Is he actually going to be a starter? How strong is he going to be as a starter? He is a bit shorter. You can kind of understand that because it is tough to cover the entire net if you're 5'10", relative if you're 6'5". But Askarov, if he moves like Saros and he's 6'3", that's a good thing. Could be top 10 in the draft. I'm thinking Chicago takes him. But we'll see. And he's had the most draft hype of any goaltender since Vasilevsky. So Vasilevsky's been pretty darn good for Tampa. But again, people may say, well, he's good for Tampa, but how would he do in a bad situation? I don't know, but we'll see, right? Eventually, at some point, we'll see. So Askarov is the guy. He is the number one. And now you jump to the level below. You got Yol Bloomquist, who is a round 2 or round 3 pick. Likely round 2 could slide into round 3. He's 6'1", 205 pounds. His strengths, the mental side, rebound control, and positioning. And he played for Karpat, under 20, 34 games, 931 save percentage. That's at the under 20 team. Now, when he went up to Liga, he only played 2 games, 4.73 goals against, 808 save percentage. But again, he's a kid playing in Liga. That's pretty impressive that they threw him in at all. He developed very well this season. To start this year, he wasn't really on the radar of the scouts, according to Hockey Prospect, but he pushed his way up through the rankings. And he has starter potential at the NHL level and a very strong glove hand. So while there are parts of his game he needs to work on, the blocker side being part of it, all of the individual parts of his game outside of that tells you he's probably going to be a starter. This is where drafting a goaltender is tough. So Askarov, yes, big, absolutely huge, high ceiling prospect, going to be great. Bloomquist, probably going to be a starter in the NHL. And you can get him around later, maybe 2 rounds later. And he might end up being a guy who ends up being as good as Askarov. Maybe Askarov burns out at the NHL level. Drafting a goaltender's risky. So yeah, Bloomquist, 6'1", 205, a little bit towards the short side with goaltenders that they're willing to scout now. If they're below 6 foot, they don't even get on the board. Nico Dawes, likely between a round 4 and a round 5 pick, 6'4", 203 pounds. 6'4" is good. 6'4" means the odds of him moving up are a little higher. And there may very well be a team who has Dawes ahead of Bloomquist on their list. That is quite possible. His strengths, positioning, low shots, his glove, and his blocker. So the fact that you've got 4 different strengths there And not all the strengths are created equal, but you've got 4 different strengths there. Somebody's going to look at Nico Daws and go, you know what? We could take a shot at that. Guelph, 38 games, 2.48 goals against, 924 save percentage. Might he interest a team in Ontario who might be looking further down the road and go, 3-4 years from now, who knows? Because again, with goaltenders, you're also trying to project out who's going to be ready in 3 or 4 years when they're likely going to be NHL level. So with Dawes, he's a gold medal winner. So he's proven he can be good in big games. The 924 save percentage in 38 games is solid. He's a very composed goaltender. And consistency is the only question mark. So it can be nights where he doesn't quite look as tuned in as others. And that's the one red flag that might have him down in round 4, according to the overall projections. But, again, there may very well be a team that looks at that and says, you know what? He'll figure that out. All goalies have consistency issues as teenagers. We like him more than Bloomquist. He doesn't go ahead of Askarov. But I could see a situation where a team... Because, again, with goaltenders, the projections are going to be differing from one team's scouting staff to another. So, Devin Levi is next on the board. He's likely between rounds 4 and 7. Could go as late as round 7. He's 6 foot, 183 pounds. So being 6 feet tall means you're short by goaltending standards. What a world we live in. Somewhere John Garrett's saying, I never would have even got a look. And he'd be right. And the best report I saw on him was love his compete level and athleticism. Now, Elite Prospects doesn't list strengths for him. And this is where things get interesting. With the later prospects and later draft picks, you're going to get fewer scouting reports. You're going to get less information. So you're going to see situations where there's a bit of a hole when it comes to the overall information. And there's going to be a scout somewhere that has all that information. It says, you know what, this kid's really good. Now, Levi played for Carton Place. Carton Place, a town I haven't been to, but I've heard of certainly throughout my lifetime because my mother grew up there. So she's going to cheer for this kid big time, and she's really going to want Ottawa to draft him because she's a huge Sens fan, being from Carton Place and all that. 37 games played, 1.47 goals against, 941 save percentage, 8 shutouts. Those numbers are ridiculous. So he's the MVP, he's the goalie of the year. Everything looks great. They had a CCHL all-star game kind of situation, and scouts basically said, this kid's the only thing, the only player in that league that might have a shot at being drafted, and maybe he reaches the NHL. So he's quick to react. He's very fast on his feet. He does need some improvement on his glove side. But again, he's not going to play from Carlton Place this year. He's moving on. And he could be one of those guys who gets drafted in round 6. We go, who's that? And then 5 years from now, he's suddenly an NHL level goaltender, and he looks pretty darn solid. It'll be interesting to watch what he does. Because again, when a goaltender is that dominant, those numbers, there may be scouts to look at that and go, well, yeah, he had really dominant numbers, but the level of competition wasn't very high, so we really can't rate him that highly as a result. It may turn out he is that good, so we'll see. Dylan Garand, between rounds 4 and 7, 6 foot 172 pounds. His strengths on the mental side and his glove hand. So mentally strong goaltender, glove hand strong as well. Kamloops plays 42 games, 2.21 goals against, average 921 save percentage for him. So his numbers, excellent. And they are excellent throughout most of these goaltenders. Now, Garand may end up going as the 5th level goaltender or the 6th, depending on which list you're looking at. So I actually only had 5 on the board, and then I thought, no, I'd better get the other guy who may go 5th onto the board, just in case. So this should be all 6 goaltenders that get drafted this year. We may see somebody who's not on the board get drafted, because again, there may be a goaltender that didn't get scouted a ton, that there's a scout somewhere going, I'm going to get a steal in round 6. I'm going to get us to draft this goaltender, and nobody's going to have a clue who he is. Calm under pressure about Garand, considered small by NHL standards, and it is not a coincidence that these two are shorter than Dawes and Askarov, and so they're likely to go later in the draft. Because he recovers quickly from bad goals, and everything I've seen with Garand tells me he may very well be an NHL level goaltender, But again, he's only 6'1". Eventually it's going to be, yeah, he's a good goaltender, but he's only 6'7". Now that goaltenders are all 7 feet and taller, I'm not sure that he's going to be able to completely envelop the net. Now that we've got those wings underneath the jerseys, and goaltenders can just completely envelop the net. All these scoreless ties are fantastic with the Giants in net. So I do think that a goaltender's height gets overhyped at times. I do think there are times where a really good goaltender who might be shorter plays quite well and doesn't get respect because, well, he's shorter. And so, we may very well see one of these goaltenders who's only 6 feet tall or only 6'1" make the NHL and actually prove a scout wrong. So, yeah, recovers quickly from bad goals, and that's something you want to see at the National Hockey League level. But he may go after Garand Bjorklund. Garand Bjorklund, who again may very well be round 4, round 7, wherever he goes. 6'2", 170 pounds. So, slight build. 6'2", 170. He is lighter than the other goalies on the board. 2 pounds lighter than Garand, who's listed as being 1 inch shorter. 6 pounds lighter than Asgarov, who is 1 inch taller. So again, that doesn't tell you a lot about their build. It just tells you he's probably going to be hitting the weight room a bit in between his draft year and when he gets to make his debut in the NHL, should that come to pass. Played for Medicine Hat this year, backup, 28 games, 2.91 goals against, 897 save percentage. First thing that stands out with Bjorklund is not a fantastic save percentage. And yet the potential is there that he is listed among North American skaters with NHL Central Scouting as being number 5 on the list ahead of Garand. So, excellent quickness and reflexes. He'll be starting next year for Medicine Hat, so that helps that he'll get that experience, but that'll be after the draft year. So, does he slide through the draft, not get drafted this year, and get drafted next year after an excellent season with Medicine Hat? But he does, the one thing they mentioned on Hockey Prospect, he does need to cut down on some bad goals. So he does have a tendency to allow some bad goals. Highlight reel saves, fantastic saves, and then the next one goes in and you're like, he probably should have stopped that one. But again, when they're this young, when they're 18, 19 years of age, it's almost impossible to project out exactly which goaltender is going to be the next Henrik Lundqvist, who was drafted very late and turned out to be a pretty solid steal late in the draft. So it'll be interesting to see where these goalies end up. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you've seen Nico Dawes regularly, if you've seen Levi regularly, if you've seen Dylan Garand or Garand Bjorklund or any of these guys regularly, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below regarding who you think is going to be a starter, a star in the NHL, and who's not on the board that should be, because there may very well be other goaltenders who end up sliding into this draft and aren't being talked about right now. But hey, let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.